Well, what's up again there, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I have another awesome Topps list for you to share with you guys today. Now, for those who don't already know, NetherRealm Studios recently announced, due to a early leak the day before, that Injustice 2 will be coming to the current-gen consoles in 2017. Now, NetherRealm Studios has done a phenomenal job with their fighting game franchise, giving us two incredible Mortal Kombat games and giving us probably one of the best new fighting game franchises that we've had, Injustice, which I thought was incredible fighting game. So now it's only a matter of time before they did a follow-up. Now, I actually did a list going into the first Injustice game of 10 characters that I thought should be added into the game, and I believe for the most part, most of them were actually added into the game. So I'm going to do a second list for the follow-up to Injustice with Injustice 2, and these are just 10 characters that aren't necessarily have been used in the fighting franchise, but I have read the Injustice comic book 5-year series, which if you haven't, I absolutely suggest you check it out because it is an incredible storyline that spans for 5 years, kind of leading into the first Injustice game. And I think that these characters have been semi-mentioned in a way in the Injustice storyline, but they haven't been added to the main game. So I think that this would be a good time to actually add them as playable characters. Now, they're not in really any particular order. I just picked 5 heroes and 5 villains that I think would be a good addition to the roster. So starting off with the villains, the first one on my list is Cheetah. Now, Cheetah obviously is a good counterpart to Wonder Woman, and I think the last time we actually saw her, she was like hanging out in a bar, and Wonder Woman came in and she said she was looking for some other villain, I'm not going to mention who, and when they were walking out, Cheetah says, "You looking for trouble?" And then Wonder Woman just kind of looked at her and said, the Justice League's right outside and we're going around killing people now, so do you really want to go at it? So I don't know, I think Cheetah took that kind of personal, so I think she would absolutely be willing to maybe join the rebellion and go up against Wonder Woman and the Superman regime, so I think she'd be a very good fit for the roster. And she's a very, very, very capable hand-to-hand combatant, so her skills would definitely be very, very effective against most characters. So that's why I picked her as number 10 on my list. Going into number 9, I picked Killer Croc. Now that Doomsday is technically floating out in the Phantom Zone, you kind of need a big, just brute force character. And I think that since, also Lex Luthor is technically dead and he kind of had the big, giant mech suit, you need another brute. And, they might still have Bane in there, but I think that he'd just be a solid, good addition. He's a big guy, he likes to chew on people, he's got claws, he has a lot of brute force. I think he'd be a very solid addition to the fighting roster. And that's why he's number 9 on the list. Going into number 8 is a character that I think is going to be a very good replacement to Sinestro. I don't want to see Sinestro in this next Injustice game, but I think there's also another Lantern that would be just as effective, if not more dangerous than even him. And I picked Atrocitus. Now, this man is a serious threat, and in fact, to me, he's a lot scarier than Sinestro, because as Sinestro likes to impose fear, Atrocitus is just straight up rage. And I think that someone that insanely angry would be just a very nearly unstoppable force for just about any character. I mean, his own blood is a weapon. I mean, it like boils like in a high temperature. It can like just disintegrate everything. So I think that having just a rage berserker character like Atrocitus with the powers of a lantern and being able to build conflicts would be a very, very formidable character to use in the Injustice 2 roster, and that's why he's number 8 on this list. Going into number 7 is a character which, if they add this character, I think it'd be quite a challenge in order to how to get his abilities to work properly in the game, but if they think that they get pulled off, he'd be a really great addition, and that is Amazo. Now, I think that one of the key elements that they would need to add to Amazo is they would need to find some way to kind of bring forth his main ability, which for those of you who don't know how Amazo works, he has the ability to actually scan a character and copy their moveset. Now, obviously you can't do that, but what I would like to see them do is, if he copies a character, have an element of their powers be applied to his own attacks. So, for example, if there was, Green Lantern. If he scans Green Lantern, then a lot of his attacks would have, Green Lantern energy applied to it. If he uses someone who's much more mechanical, like Batman, who doesn't have powers, but I think he'd be able to copy something from Batman and be able to apply that into his attacks. And if someone like Superman, maybe his attacks will add, much more strength into his blows. I think that if they could add an element to that with Amazo, which would make him very adaptable to just about every character in the roster, that would make him a very, very formidable character to use and to master. And that's why I think he'd be a great addition to the roster for Injustice 2. And the final villain that I think has to be added into this because he had a pretty serious fight with Superman in the comic books, and even though he too is a baddie, I don't think Superman acting like a dictator would go over with this guy too well, because even if Superman is evil, this guy still hates him pretty dearly, and that is Darkseid. Listen, if you're gonna put in Doomsday and Alaska, you have to put in Darkseid. Darkseid is just the ultimate threat, and until Superman comes along. And so I think it'd be a battle of egos because, Darkseid has always wanted to conquer Earth, and Earth is now kind of Superman's territory now, and I'm sure they're going to find some way to break Superman out of his little prison, and then he'll probably want to take over again, and so it's probably going to be a battle for which dictator deserves to have control of Earth, and I think that'd be a pretty badass fight. You pretty much have a Superman who's like willing to kill against a god like being one of the new gods who just flat out hates Superman, and so a throwdown between these two would be kind of hard to see who you would want to cheer for. So that's why I think that Darkseid would be a great addition. So now we go into the heroes, and the number 5 spot on my list in terms of heroes is Starfire. And Starfire is obviously a member of the original Teen Titans, and the reason I think she'd be a great addition to this is the fact that most of the Teen Titans in Earth 2, which is where I want this game to take place, are evil. We know that Cyborg and Raven and Robin has joined Superman regime, and Damian Wayne actually killed Dick Grayson, and we all know, or most people know, that Starfire and Dick Grayson are couples, so I don't think she'd be pretty happy that another Robin killed, her man. So I think that would be a good motivation for her to come out of hiding and have to combat not only the person who killed her husband or boyfriend at the time, depending if they were ever in a relationship, but the rest of her fellow Titans. I think that would make it pretty personal for her, so I think she'd be a great addition. Plus, she would have just the use of her abilities would really make her a pretty devastating force. I mean, she'd probably be one of those levitating characters that could do a whole bunch of energy and fire blasts, so I think she'd just be a great addition to the roster. Number 4 on my list is Black Canary. Now, Black Canary is a very formidable martial artist who has the ability to use sonic screams. So I think a combination of those two talents would definitely make her a very, very interesting character with a number of really cool combos. I think she'd be more in line with someone like Batman than a superpower character. And probably, since she's probably going to have maybe the bow staff or one of the melee weapons, she would be very reminiscent of someone like Nightwing or Robin from the first Justice game. So I think she'd be a great addition. Number 3 on my list is a very, very interesting character. I think he would be probably the ultimate long-range character. I'm not sure how you could do it because his powers are pretty irregular and it would be pretty hard to pull off, I think, in terms of gameplay, and that is Plastic Man. Now, the last we see of Plastic Man in the Injustice storyline that I can recall is that he actually manages to break into the prison where the Superman regime has captured all the rogue heroes and villains, and he's there to kind of rescue his son. And I think it kind of ends with him getting a hold of Mirror Master's mirror device, and so he's kind of trapped himself, his son, and all of these escaped convicts in the mirror world. And I think if he finds a way out, Superman's going to be pretty pissed off that he broke into his prison and broke all of these guys out, especially since he's kind of a jokester and kind of made fun of Superman because he was sitting in this big chair. So I think that Plastic Man would just be very, very entertaining. I think he would have the most charisma. I just am not sure how they would pull off the gameplay of that because I think a lot of it would just be a lot of long range and grapple attacks, which would be very interesting visually, but I think that would be the most challenging character to put on this roster. But if they could pull it off, I think he'd be a very, very big fan favorite, and that's why he's number 3 on my list. Going on into number 4 is a major character. Now, if you're going to have Darkseid on this list, you have to add Big Barda. Big Barda has a very personal vendetta against Darkseid, and being a member of the original Justice League, I'm really not sure where she would stand, whether she would join with Batman and the Rebels or Superman's regime. She would be a dominating force. I think she'd be even a much dominating force than someone like Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is like an Amazon. So in terms of combat skills and weaponry, she would definitely be a force to be reckoned with. So that's why she's number 2 on my list. And the last and number 1 character on my list, per se, is a character that I think you could work with the element of Superman going bad, and that is John Henry Irons' Steel. Now, for those of you who don't know the Death of Superman storyline, after Superman was supposedly dead after the Doomsday fight, 4 new Supermen came to kind of take his place, and one of them just so happened to be John Henry Irons, who or this giant suit of steel that had the Superman symbol. And I think it makes sense because in a game where apparently from what we saw from the trailer, everyone is going to have like an armor battle suit which can just be applied to their bodies at any time, it makes sense to add a character who already fights in a suit of armor. So he would kind of just fit right in with the rest of the gang. And he fights with a gigantic hammer. I mean, how can you not think that is cool? So I just think that his combative style, I think his overall visual look, and really what he could bring to the overall franchise, seeing how Superman has gone bad, so he kind of wants to bring, you know, a good vibe to the S symbol and like kind of live up to what Superman used to be. I think that would be a good motivation to add John Henry Irons' Steel to this roster, and that's why he's number 1 on my list. Now with that out of the way, that is my list of the top 10 characters that I would like to see in Injustice 2. If there are any characters that you think would be a great fit for Injustice 2, share them in the comments down below with me, and if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to track my future videos. And like always, thank you guys for watching, you're awesome, and I will see you next time.